The story begins centuries ago when a meteorite crashed onto the continent. It carried strange larvae that sparked the invasion. The eggs spread, birthing vicious monsters called the Race, starting humanity's calamity. Humans soon realized the deadly threat and strove to find a way to eradicate it. However, all modern weapons were powerless against the swarming creatures, and territory was gradually lost. After many years, a great master founded the spirit contract system. This system allowed women, upon maturing, to awaken their own spirit contract. Men became spirit contract masters, possessing talents to support their partners. Thanks to this mechanism, humanity preserved its last land and its hope of survival. 100 years later, at Qingdong Academy, a young girl was testing her ability with a spirit stone. The crystal revealed a blade, and the examiner announced, "Lin, C-rank spirit contract blade, sharp attribute." Upon hearing this, she felt disappointed since her power was only average. Among the crowd, Han Zhan silently reflected, having just transmigrated to this world, awaiting his awakening. At that moment, the host called the next name, Xiao Mei. A beautiful girl with graceful demeanor stepped up to be tested. When her hand touched the spirit stone, a brilliant golden light shot into the sky. She exclaimed in shock, unable to contain her emotions. From the heavens appeared a mystical spear. The examiner cried out in astonishment, "Xiao Mei, S-rank spirit contract blood-washed silver spear, a tribute of immortal purity." This news spread instantly, everyone marveling at the miracle of a dual-attribute S-rank contract, leaving all in shock. But a friend reminded quietly that Xiao Mei already had a boyfriend. At that moment, Xiao Mei walked to Han Zhan, coldly breaking up, saying she had surpassed him. She shoved Han Zhan aside and left, warning him not to approach her again. The youths behind laughed mockingly while Han Zhan stood still in anger. Han Zhan thought to himself, "Just an S-rank contract and she dares to look down on me. Does she think I am still weak?" He recalled how the original host, Simplor, once humbled himself, from massages to cooking, only to please Xiao Mei. But she had thrown away the food he prepared, scolded him, and he still apologized, promising to train harder to keep her love. Now Han Zhan looked in the mirror and vowed that in this spirit contract world, he would never be cowardly again. The young men nearby continued mocking, saying he was unworthy of a phoenix and should retreat before being taught a lesson. Han Zhan replied coldly, calling them fickle cowards, and declared perhaps he would awaken beyond S-rank. Xiao Mei heard this, turned back with a mocking smile, claiming that S was already rare, and surpassing it was pure delusion. At that moment, Han Zhan's name was called, and he stepped forward calmly. He placed his hand on the spirit stone to be tested. Time passed, yet the stone showed no reaction. Han Zhan grew uneasy inside, wondering why nothing happened. Xiao Mei immediately mocked him, calling him trash who couldn't even begin awakening. Other youths joined in the ridicule, saying Xiao Mei was right to break up with him. But suddenly, Han Zhan's expression changed strangely. A radiant golden light burst from the stone, stunning everyone. The crowd screamed in shock, first thinking it was S-rank, then realizing it was SS rank. The dazzling golden glow pierced the sky like a divine pillar of light. The spirit stone displayed clearly, Han Zhan, SSS rank spirit contract talent, divine comprehension. The sight left Xiao Mei in disbelief, stunned that an SSS contract, lost for a century and only possessed by supreme powerhouses, appeared again. Those who mocked him now froze, recalling how in history an SSS contract once turned the tide against the insect race, saving humanity from extinction. While the crowd was still stunned, many female students rushed toward Han Zhan, eagerly introducing their spirit contract abilities to be chosen. A green-haired girl pressed close, even tempting him by saying her home had hundreds of cosplay outfits to please him daily. Han Zhan sighed lightly and coldly refused, thinking they would only hinder his path. Then he reached toward the testing stone again. Immediately, it revealed his talents: divine illumination, domain of suppression, and great harmony of heaven's Tao. 3 transcendent powers, granting him insight into contracts, immense amplification, and unlimited companions. At this, Xiao Mei hurried back with a forced smile, trying to apologize and reconcile. Han Zhan only glanced at her coldly, as if looking at a stranger. With divine illumination, he clearly saw Xiao Mei's S-rank spirit contract info, including the blood spear and celestial aura attribute. Xiao Mei still pleaded, promising if he agreed she would let him hold her hand. With his new power, Han Zhan affirmed he could comprehend all contracts, while she kept raising her offer, from a kiss to even going all the way once. Han Zhan immediately stopped her, rejecting with contempt, saying she had no chance. He turned and left, ignoring Xiao Mei's desperate clinging, while other girls mocked her fake, pitiful act, saying Han Zhan despised two-faced people. Despite her beauty, Xiao Mei's spirit contract being only E rank now made her a useless outcast. The crowd scorned that no one would choose such trash, while in the distance, a quiet girl lowered her head silently. That was Xia Yu Wei, labeled as useless, barely able to pass the exam. Hearing the cruel words, she wept in pain, wondering why being only E rank made her hated. She wiped her tears and hurried away. Unfortunately, she bumped into Han Zhan, who caught her and gently asked if she was all right. She said she was fine, but Han Zhan immediately saw her info. E rank spirit contract, form of Fuxi Zither, no attribute, divinity unopened. Han Zhan was shocked since the Fuxi Zither was an ancient divine artifact, though now E rank, with his talent she might awaken divinity. While he pondered, Xia Yu Wei worriedly asked if he was hurt. Han Zhan smiled and invited her to be his exclusive spirit contract, leaving her stunned, as if dreaming. The girls he had rejected grew furious, saying choosing an E-rank waste would only drag him down, feeling jealous and unfair. At that moment, a deep voice stopped them. The principal of Qingdong Academy, Chen Guangpo, appeared. He sternly advised Han Zhan not to contract recklessly, for he bore the great mission of defeating the insect race and reclaiming land. Hearing this, Xia Yu Wei burst into tears, admitting she was unworthy to be Han Zhan's partner. Suddenly, a burly, dark-skinned man interrupted loudly. He was Zhao Hu, guardian of Shenlan, glaring at Han Zhan as an enemy after hearing he caused chaos. Xiao Mei rushed to him happily, calling him foster father. Zhao Hu glared at Han Zhan, accusing him of bullying his foster daughter despite awakening SSS. Without letting him explain, Zhao Hu grabbed Han Zhan's collar, threatening that if he spoke, no one in Shenlan would dare form a contract with him. Seeing her foster father suppressing Han Zhan, Xiao Mei arrogantly demanded he apologize and contract with her, or be completely banned. But Han Zhan calmly retorted, mocking that she had no qualifications, making Xiao Mei tremble with rage. Zhao Hu, enraged at his foster daughter's humiliation, raised his hand to strike Han Zhan's face. But Principal Chen Guangpo immediately intervened. He sternly reminded Zhao Hu to calm down, for Han Zhan was an SSS genius already reported to higher authorities. Zhao Hu still fumed, growling that he would let it go only if Han Zhan contracted with the useless Xia Yu Wei. Han Zhan instantly agreed, declaring no one could change his decision. He walked to Xia Yu Wei, gently held her, and smiled. "Let's go. We'll make the contract." Xia Yu Wei was moved, blaming herself for dragging him down. But Han Zhan held her hand, reassuring her that she was fully worthy. As the ritual began, golden chains of light wrapped around them both. Han Zhan's eyes glowed as his divine illumination skill activated automatically. Xia Yu Wei's body trembled violently, releasing cries as if breaking a seal. A mystical purple barrier enveloped her, radiant light spreading through the hall. A zither appeared in Han Zhan's hands, sign of a successful contract. The system confirmed. Zia Yu Wei, SSS rank spirit contract. Incarnation of Fuxi Zither, divinity activated. Sword Gallant, Zither Heart. Immediately detailed information appeared, showing Fuxi Zither's supreme skills of formation breaking and healing. Han Zhan was secretly shocked, realizing this spirit was all round, both offense and defense. Flawless. A true SSS miracle. At the same time, spiritual energy surged into Xia Yuwei's body. She wept with joy, never expecting to rise from useless E rank to the SSS peak. Overwhelmed, Xia Yuwei hugged Han Zhan tightly in gratitude, leaving him flustered. In contrast, Xiao Mei whined to Zhao Hu, complaining of humiliation, while he looked greedy and promised to trouble Han Zhan in Shenlan, thinking he had ruined his future. With the upcoming exam, Zhao Hu was confident of his authority in Shenlan, while Xiao Mei sweetly expressed gratitude. He squinted slyly, probing what she would offer in return. She blushed with hidden desire, suggesting a secret place to devote herself. He eagerly agreed, craving to indulge that very night. Soon, news of Han Zhan spread everywhere, shocking the public who claimed the genius had ruined his future by a wrong choice, demanding his expulsion from the city. Zhao Hu reveled in the success of his smear plan, while Xiao Mei flattered him beneath his body. He smirked darkly, boasting of his prowess while indulging in pleasure. He believed this was only the beginning, with far crueler tricks awaiting in the upcoming exam. The scene shifted to the academy cafeteria. Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei had breakfast while classmates pointed at them, making her ashamed and self-blaming. He encouraged her with a gentle smile, praising her beauty and telling her to be confident. He also reminded her to eat well for strength in the coming exam. He firmly ignored the gossip, believing he would prove his strength, which inspired her determination. Suddenly, someone shouted Han Zhan's name loudly. A fierce-looking man appeared with Xiao Mei, mocking that the SSS genius was only a false name. He was Wang Lu Mo. Han Zhan calmly asked his identity, and the man boasted of being Xiao Mei's new contract master. Hearing that, Han Zhan burst out laughing, mocking him for wearing a green hat. Wang Lu Mo shouted angrily, but Han Zhan calmly said he had just remembered something ridiculous. Xiao Mei pulled his hand, reassuring him that Han Zhan was now only E rank and would soon be exiled to the lower city. Before leaving, he still snarled a warning that he would settle accounts later. The scene shifted to the exam grounds. The examiner appeared and declared the rules. Each round had its own difficulty. Clearing one stage was considered passing. The first group called was Xiao Mei and Wang Lu Mo. The two confidently stepped into the arena. The massive stone gate slowly cracked open, dust billowing out. A giant claw slammed down, shaking the ground. A terrifying green-skinned, fanged monster roared out, with the system announcing difficulty level 1, enemy, black armor breed. Wang Lu Mo raised his spear, firmly telling his partner to prepare. The monster roared and charged, while Xiao Mei transformed into a radiant spear in his hands. He gripped the weapon tightly, leaping forward to strike the beast. The spear pierced, but the thick armor made it almost unharmed. He was knocked back and forced to retreat several steps. Undaunted, he poured all spiritual energy into the spear, releasing a blazing, golden strike. A horrific screech rang out as the spearhead pierced deep into the creature's body. The monster's body gushed blood from a large hole. The audience gasped in astonishment, praising his S-rank talent, saying breaking the black armor breed's shell was incredible. The performance was broadcast live on giant screens. An old man observing nodded in approval, saying the strike was indeed not bad. Then Ruan Qing, manager of district numbers, arrogantly claimed the feat was far inferior to his team. The old man immediately rapped his head, scolding him for being insolent, and Ruan Qing awkwardly admitted fault. The supervisor of District 2, Lin Jing Xuan, interjected, saying an S-rank contract should have defeated it in one blow, yet it was 20% weaker. He judged the cause to be a debauched, lifestyle-draining, spiritual source, which made Zhao Hu shiver upon hearing. He coughed nervously to hide his guilt. The proctor announced Xiao Mei and Wang Lu Mo had broken the record for clearing the Academy's Level 7 difficulty trial. The crowd cheered in admiration, while mocking Han Zhan, eagerly awaiting his clown show. The proctor called the next pair, Han Zhan and Xiaoyu Wei. The two calmly walked into the arena. Standing before the massive stone gate, they were momentarily astonished. In an instant, Han Zhan became alert. In front of them was not one, but an entire swarm of black armor insects, with the notice showing, Difficulty Level 1, 10 enemies. Han Zhan cursed in shock, while Xia Yue was also horrified by the abnormal numbers. The audience murmured, believing this was deliberate suppression, fitting for someone who chose an E-rank spirit contract. The proctor explained that difficulty was adjusted by talent, with SSS rank multiplied tenfold. People gossiped, all knowing Zhao Hu had interfered for his own benefit. Some mocked, saying he deserved this outcome. The horde of monsters roared and surged forward like raging waves. Han Zhan stood firm, shouting a challenge, as Xia Yue transformed into a zither in his hands. His fingers raced across the strings, unleashing an aura that stunned the audience. Waves of sound power burst out violently from the instrument. In an instant, dozens of monsters were shredded as if fed into a grinder. The crowd was stunned, unable to believe such strength from an E-rank contract, even feeling inferior themselves. The bribed insider trembled, questioning who Han Zhan truly was. Ruan Qing laughed, recalling it took him 30 seconds to achieve the same in the past, while Han Zhan did it in just one. Lin Jingxuan adjusted his glasses, admitting the power was overwhelming but stressing the trial had gone beyond standard limits. Zhao Hu loudly argued the adjustment was meant to maximize young people's potential, but inside he trembled, cursing as Han Zhan slaughtered the horde too easily, like a real monster. Ruan Qing sneered, saying higher pressure was better since their generation had faced similar trials. The old man agreed, eager to see Han Zhan's true limits. He immediately raised the trial to level 2, with 20 Black Fang breeds. Han Zhan swiftly engaged, refusing to let the pace falter. His fingers plucked the strings non-stop, steady and unshaken. The zither's sound waves spread outward, engulfing the entire space. The monsters roared madly, charging without fear. But in moments, all were crushed into nothing by the sound waves. He smiled calmly, taunting that the challenge was still too weak. The audience was stunned, thinking he had openly slapped the authorities in the face. Ruan Qing laughed heartily, insisting this man must belong to his District 1. Ye Chu, leader of District 3, instantly retorted, fighting to claim him, nearly clashing with Ruan Qing. Shen Zhiji of District 4 interrupted, suggesting Han Zhan should begin with exploration missions instead of being thrown into the frontline furnace. Ruan Qing and Ye Chu cursed angrily at Shen Zhiji. The old man shouted them down, and all three immediately bowed their heads in obedience. He then asked Lin Jingxuan's opinion, who said the current test did not reflect true ability and recommended restarting with the highest standards their generation once faced. The old man pondered, then agreed with the proposal. Zhao Hu watched from behind, his face dark as if in mourning. But then he smirked, thinking the highest standard would make Han Zhan pay. Soon after, the proctor announced adjustments per higher orders. Difficulty Level 3 was declared. 10 Tier 2 armored beetles and 10 Tier 2 thunder sound birds. The stands erupted in horror, all feeling it was too cruel, as armored beetles had steel defenses and thunder sound birds had terrifying attacks, hard even for Tier 2 spirit masters to withstand. Amid the audience's worry, Han Zhan calmly welcomed the challenge, saying this level was finally worth facing. Wang Lu Mao sneered, calling him arrogantly overconfident. The beast horde charged in, vicious like demons. Thunder sound birds above unleashed waves of fierce lightning strikes at Han Zhan. Yet he remained calm. strumming the zither without pause. Strangely, from the music appeared ranks of armored celestial soldiers, rushing madly at the monsters. The phantom army closed in, encircling the armored beetles. The thunder sound birds grew wilder, raining down relentless lightning. Under the onslaught, the celestial soldiers gradually faded away. Han Zhan then activated the move formation-breaking melody, charging straight into the battlefield's center. The scene shocked the entire audience. A Tier 1 Spirit Master breaking the offensive of Tier 2 beasts and even counterattacking to destroy them. He stood in the battlefield, his whole body radiating golden light like a deity. His fingers kept strumming, beams of light slicing through and obliterating the beasts. They were annihilated swiftly. The crowd gasped, calling him scarier than the monsters themselves. Even Wang Lu Mao couldn't believe it, muttering bitterly about that mysterious power. The proctor loudly declared, Han Zhan had completed difficulty level 3. Ruan Qing exclaimed in shock that he was defying heaven, destroying both beasts in just a few moves. Lin Jingxuan confirmed his playing speed was 10 times faster than normal, never before seen. The old man watching from behind frowned, suspecting Xie Yuwei could not really be just an E-rank spirit. At that moment, he summoned someone from afar. "A fuck, come here." That person quickly appeared, bowing in service, and was tasked with reappraising Xie Yuwei. A few replied that he had tried before but couldn't discern it. The state somewhat resembled the young lady. The old man was astonished, mentioning Ling Zhen, who was once judged E-rank due to faulty stones, but her true strength was different. Perhaps Xie Yuwei's power came from her contract with Han Zhan. A Fu confirmed the possibility couldn't be ruled out. The old man fell into thought, finding the matter too unpredictable, and decided Ling Zhen must meet Han Zhan in person. Ling Zhen once mentioned the name of her E-rank talent. Fu pondered, then answered it was Shen Nong Cauldron. Han Zhan held his zither, firmly requesting to continue the trial. The examiner confirmed, and he resolutely agreed. A portal of light opened, releasing countless strange beasts. A centipede-like monster lunged to bite, but he dodged. He stayed calm, hands strumming continuously. Sharp energy waves sliced the beast apart, but before he could rest, a 5-headed bug charged. Han Zhan leapt high, shouting that he wanted to test his limits. His power waves shredded the monster to pieces, and he easily cleared stages 4 through 8. On the platform, only beast corpses lay scattered around him. The examiner, shocked, said he had already broken through 9 stages and should stop. But Han Zhan insisted on challenging stage 10, startling the examiner since no one had ever surpassed it. The audience buzzed, doubting whether a newly awakened could clear the final stage guarded by Tier 3 beasts. Ruan Qing sighed, recalling he himself had only stopped at stage 9. Jingxuan smiled, declaring Han Zhan must go to District 2. Ruan Qing instantly grew angry, fighting to claim him for District 1. Jingxuan smirked, lightly adjusting his glasses. He spoke calmly. Why not? The proctor reminded Han Zhan that in his current state, victory was unlikely. He placed the zither on his lap, calmly replying he understood, requesting a restart. The proctor reminded him the rules allowed only 5 minutes of rest. He asked for more time to prepare. He immediately closed his eyes, gathering spirit power to restore his body. The crowd boiled in shock, realizing he could attack, defend, heal, and support, an exceptionally rare all-round spirit master. In contrast, 2 elders nearly came to blows fighting to claim Han Zhan for their districts. At that moment, a cough echoed, cutting them off. A red-haired young man entered, introducing himself as Liu Jingxuan of District 5, questioning whether allowing a spirit master to recover on the battlefield was reasonable. Ruan Qing angrily shouted, but Liu Jingxuan calmly said, taking Han Zhan to District 5 would reduce casualties by 30%. These words infuriated both Jingxuan and Ruan Qing, who roared in protest. Suddenly, their master struck, shattering the oppressive aura and ordering them to stop. All 3 fell silent, while the old man slowly spoke of the achievements of Great Jia's 8 battle districts. He said District 1 fought decisive battles, District 2 held strategies, District 3 expanded borders, District 4 researched secrets, District 5 rescued the wounded, District 6 guarded treacherous passes, District 7 crossed oceans, and District 8 stayed hidden in the rear. These 8 districts were the pillars supporting the fate of Great Jia. He continued, saying he had once considered founding District 9 but had never done so. Shocking Ruan Qing that such an idea truly existed. Jing Xuan focused his gaze intently on the screen. In his heart, the old man wondered if Han Zhan could bear that burden. Soon after, a fire-bodied beast appeared, the Tier 3 Scarlet Flame Beast. The examiner shouted to open Stage 10, requiring survival for 3 minutes against the monster. The beast roared, unleashing searing heat in all directions. The heat waves blasted the spectators away, making them scream miserably. In contrast, Han Zhan stood firm, shocking the audience who thought he was insane not to run. He calmly asked Xia Yu Wei if she was ready. She smiled gently, assuring she would always stand by him. His eyes lit up as Han Zhan charged straight at the beast, shouting he came not just to endure. The beast immediately spewed a stream of fire directly at him, but he leapt aside in time, evading the flames. The fire crashed down, igniting a blazing sea with black smoke billowing. Han Zhan held his zither, closed his eyes to focus, then struck the first notes. The sound boomed, surging into a powerful windstorm. A hapless man was blown away, his bald head exposed. Many girls panicked, covering their chests against the violent gust. Han Zhan continued strumming, his agile fingers conjuring a massive tornado. The whirlwind surged directly toward the beast. The beast couldn't dodge, dragged inside, screaming in terrible agony. The tornado shredded its body like thousands of blades, turning the arena into a bloody chaos. The audience was stunned, amazed he had slain a Tier 3 beast, a record beyond imagination. Wang Lu Mao angrily smashed the railing and roared, while a Xiao Mei was upset her fame had been stolen. Han Zhan muttered he had to use an advanced melody, but still suffered severe backlash injuries. Suddenly, a strange surge of spirit power rose around him. A figure approached, congratulating him on passing the trial and announcing the next space was prepared. Han Zhan asked in surprise who that person was. It was Lin Jingxuan of District 2, who introduced himself and said he had questions, sparking Han Zhan's curiosity. Jingxuan asked about the war between humanity and the insect race. Han Zhan replied the beasts might win, but humanity would never bow. Then he asked why he fought. Han Zhan firmly declared he fought to stop his homeland from being slaughtered, to protect the people, and to restore Great Xia's glory. Thunderous applause erupted, praising his righteous words. The old man appeared, proposing to take him as a disciple, and Jingxuan respectfully introduced him as Li Shoudong. Han Zhan was shocked. That was the most renowned man of the Li clan under heaven. A century ago, when the 3 insect emperors attacked together, Great Xia was on the brink of destruction. It was Li Shoudong who single-handedly fought, slew all 3, and saved the nation from catastrophe. Han Zhan, deeply moved, asked if he could truly take him as master. Li Shoudong nodded in confirmation. He immediately knelt and kowtowed to accept his teacher. Li Shoudong patted his shoulder in praise, then presented a ring as a greeting gift. The ring was forged from the bones of a slain Tier 9 insect emperor, containing a vast storage space, leaving Han Zhan shocked. The bone still radiated terrifying killing intent, proof of the insect emperor's immense power before death. Li Shoudong warned the ring could suppress weaker beings, but against strong foes it would provoke bloodlust, so it should not be worn casually. Han Zhan put the ring on without hesitation, treasuring it as his master's gift, making Li Shoudong laugh heartily and praise his spirit. He even mocked Jingxuan for gifting a ring he dared not wear, causing him to sweat silently. Li Shodong again patted Han Zhan's shoulder, saying both he and Xia Yu Wei were tired, and he would treat them to a feast. Soon after, they were brought to a restaurant, where he said senior brothers had been called for Han Zhan to meet. Jing Xuan introduced himself as the one in charge of District 2, whom Han Zhan had already met before. He then introduced third senior brother Ye Chu, fourth brother Shen Zhiji, and fifth brother Liu Jing Xuan. Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei respectfully rose to salute, and Shen Zhiji kindly replied they were all family. Ye Chu laughed, saying some seniors were busy. Shen Zhiji added sixth brother was guarding the border, seventh overseas, and before he could finish with eighth, a shadow appeared behind Han Zhan, introducing himself as the eighth brother. He handed Han Zhan a slip of paper, saying it was his contact, usable only once in dire need. As soon as he spoke, the figure vanished, leaving Han Zhan stunned. He marveled inwardly at how mysterious this eighth brother was. Jing Xuan gave Han Zhan a box, saying it was a gift from the senior brothers, containing martial skills, equipment, and many treasures. Han Zhan joyfully accepted, expressing his gratitude. At that moment, a plump woman entered, loudly scolding them for sneaking out to eat hot pot. Xia Yu Wei froze as if seeing a nightmare, blurting out, "Aunt." The woman pointed accusingly, scolding Xia Yu Wei for abandoning her family once she had prospects, making her stammer an explanation. But the woman cut her off, raising her hand to slap while shouting she dared talk back. Han Zhan instantly stepped forward, blocking the strike in time. She shrieked noisily, yowling like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Without hesitation, Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei drank all the liquid medicine. Han Zhan's body erupted as if fire surged through his veins. The system announced his breakthrough to Spirit Contract Master Stage 2, while Xia Yu Wei also soared with overflowing energy. She advanced to SSS rank, entering an illusory state, while awakening a new divinity for Fuxi Zither. Sword Courage, Zither Heart, Heavenly Garment of 4 symbols. Han Zhan was utterly shocked that Xia Yu Wei gained such divine power after her breakthrough. But the anomaly didn't stop. Han Zhan's body continued transforming, flames fading and replaced by endless musical scores revolving around him. Mystical sounds echoed in his mind, revealing it was a phenomenon of heaven and earth, not divine will. 4 natural forces, wind, fire, thunder, and lightning, manifested, forming a special symphony. When it ended, both Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei were exhausted, drenched in sweat and gasping. Han Zhan marveled that this medicine not only enhanced physique, but also expanded skills. Xia Yu Wei felt she had touched an entirely new realm. Li Shodong nodded in satisfaction, pleased that his students met expectations. Suddenly, Han Zhan's phone rang. He answered, hearing Hong Ying-wei report an urgent mission in Shenlan City. A red alert appeared on the screen. Wandering raiders had emerged near Shenlan, requiring immediate elimination. Reward 1,000 points. Danger level 3+. Han Zhan was shaken as Hong Ying-wei explained their terrifying strength. Then he immediately summoned the team at Shiha. He pulled Xia Yu Wei along as they ran, while Li Shodong smiled quietly, thinking he had become like an elder of the sect. He turned to Afuk, sighing about the turbulent times caused by the wandering raiders. Afuk reported that Miss Lin Zhen had been found but refused to meet, currently staying in Shanghai City, surprising Li Shodong. At Shiha Street, Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei met Hong Ying-wei and Yifan waiting. Wan Wei asked directly if they should take the mission, and Han Zhan firmly declared it an opportunity to increase points. She worried since wandering raiders were extremely dangerous, and even with illusion state they might not win. Han Zhan sternly asked if she understood the meaning of a red alert, but she only shook her head. He explained that a red alert signified a catastrophe. If not stopped, it would endanger the whole city, so they must fight not for points, but for humanity. Yifan, fired up, raised his wine and laughed loudly, praising the captain and rallying to battle. Finally, Owan Wei resolved to act, saying she would get the vehicle to take the whole team to accept the mission. Shenlan City was quickly shrouded in danger as black clouds, the ability of the wandering raider Hai Zhang, appeared. The opposing team leader explained that Hai Zhang isolates an area from the world, causing everything inside to rapidly decay until destruction. Redhead wondered why the mission was still public, and the captain replied that the raider's power was too great, requiring many sacrifices to stall it. Only then did everyone realize the true reason. After observing with binoculars, the captain ordered to wait for other teams to go first and take casualties before acting. Through the scope, he saw Han Zhan's group had already approached the dark zone. Han Zhan immediately warned his teammates that Hai Zhang was extremely dangerous and they must stay cautious. Hong Ying-wei stepped out of the vehicle, solemnly asking if they understood that once inside, there was no turning back. Yi Fan casually replied it didn't matter, while Han Zhan firmly assured the group would be fine. Soon after, the team entered the heavy black mist, where strange spiderwebs filled the space. A foul, dark atmosphere surrounded them as they tracked the scent of insect beasts, while Han Zhan kept urging vigilance. Xia Yu Wei, terrified, felt unseen, hateful eyes watching, then heard bizarre sounds as if something was draining their life force. Hong Ying-wei quickly explained that this was Hai Zhang's ability to steal life, causing their energy to fade away. Yi Fan added they only had 30 minutes to destroy Hai Zhang, or they would become prey for the raider. At that moment, Hong Ying-wei pointed ahead, warning of a suspicious object. The whole team looked and saw a strange black sphere, which Yi Fan confirmed as the target. From afar, it looked like a dark mass, but up close it revealed the form of a horrifying eye. Han Zhan asked if breaking it would resolve everything, but he failed to notice a mud trap underfoot. Hong Ying-wei and Yi Fan were swallowed, and despite trying to save each other, they vanished in the mist. Han Zhan anxiously explained this was another ability of the raider, granting life, making even earth and objects come alive. Xia Yu Wei immediately poured out her strength, determined to destroy the threat. In an instant, she transformed into a zither placed before Han Zhan. He grasped the instrument, strumming fiercely, declaring they would fight together. Sharp sounds like swords cut through the thick black fog. Sound waves struck the devouring wall, causing a series of violent explosions, but the barrier quickly regenerated, showing almost no damage. Han Zhan's face changed as he realized its terrifying regeneration, and then the space around them began to crack. He thought in alarm that the wandering raider intended to trap them to die inside. A shrieking winged insect charged straight at Han Zhan, making Xia Yu Wei cry out in panic. She shouted, but it was too late as the creature closed in within inches. Fortunately, Han Zhan dodged in time, escaping a fatal strike. The monster used its momentum to dive straight into the dark wall. Han Zhan was stunned, declaring that was exactly what they were looking for, while Xia Yu Wei confusedly asked about its nature. Without hesitation, he grabbed her hand and pulled her away immediately. Soon after, the rival captain's group also arrived at this area. He warned them that with no one left to sacrifice first, they must be cautious. But his teammates arrogantly boasted that their level 3 power was enough, even claiming there was still a safe escape route. Before finishing, the ground shook violently as a giant monster emerged with a terrifying roar. After the tremors, the mist parted, revealing a horrifying scene, making Red Hair nervously warn his comrades. He turned to the captain but saw him standing motionless, as if soulless. Red Hair, confused, tried patting his shoulder and calling his name to wake him. But the man gave no reply, only turning back with terrifying, killing intent. Suddenly he grabbed Red Hair's neck, choking him as a large bug crawled out from his head. The creature instantly burrowed into Red Hair's eye, leaving behind a horrified scream. Meanwhile, Hong Ying-wei and Yi Fan escaped the sinkhole. She thanked him, but he indifferently said the raider only wanted to split them apart. She sensed invisible threads around, but he dismissed it. She admired Yi Fan's seeming immortality, but he laughed bitterly, saying sometimes death was true release. He continued, saying in this situation, it was better to leave it to fate. Hong Ying-wei disagreed, insisting there was still a way out, surprising Yi Fan to ask further. Without replying, she pressed her hand on the rock wall, chanting with golden spiritual power to awaken the soulless earth. Instantly, the wall shattered like cracked glass. The terrain shook violently, rocks falling from above, making Yi Fan exclaim in shock. In the dust, a shadowy figure appeared before the two. Oan Wei recognized it and frantically warned the captain. At that moment, Han Zhan, scouting ahead, turned back just in time to dodge a falling boulder. Then he reunited with his teammates, hearing how they escaped thanks to Oan Wei's ability. But before they could relax, a giant figure lunged forward with a fierce punch. Han Zhan noticed and shouted a warning to Oan Wei and Yi Fan. But it was too late, as the monster's blow came in a flash, aiming to crush them both. Han Zhan unleashed a strike that shattered the monster's fist, stopping the attack in time. He shouted loudly, telling his teammates to get away. Before him stood a giant stone man with hateful eyes roaring ferociously. Hong Ying-wei worried silently, knowing the situation was too dangerous. Han Zhan took a deep breath, activated spiritual power, and strummed his zither with a resounding echo. Winds from all directions gathered into a tornado, but the stone being fearlessly charged like a beast. The violent clash sent Oan Wei and Yi Fan flying away. A shockwave spread wide, sweeping straight toward them. They were crushed under the force, gravely injured and struggling to stand. Han Zhan shouted that these creatures were only minions, and to destroy them, they must break the raider's true body. He emphasized that it had merged with the darkness, leaving only the black sphere as its core. Destroying the sphere was the only way to annihilate it. Oan Wei and Yi Fan forced themselves up, declaring together they would assist. The stone man heard and instantly charged, swinging a massive fist down. Yi Fan did not retreat, leaping up with a loud shout. He invoked his immortality power. A faint golden spiritual barrier surrounded him, turning his body into a shield against the blow. While holding on, Yi Fan warned that the move could only withstand 6 hits, urging the captain to act quickly. Han Zhan nodded and immediately dashed toward the black sphere to finish it. He erupted with spiritual power, lightning surrounding him, eyes glowing as he chanted an ancient forbidden spell. A terrifying thunderbolt descended. The 6-ding divine lightning. In the sky, divine warriors appeared, with the thunder god leading the decree of punishment. From his hand, lightning thundered down upon the stone giant. The force even blasted Yi Fan far away. The black sphere was also struck by lightning, unable to withstand it. Small cracks appeared across its surface. The cracks spread and then exploded, the sphere shattering into nothingness. Yi Fan laughed loudly, thinking victory was theirs. But immediately after, Han Zhan screamed in agony as his stomach was pierced by a hidden hand, blood gushing out. A humanoid monster emerged, flinging him aside. It sneered mockingly, declaring humanity too weak to escape death. Yi Fan was horrified, realizing the raider had matured, while Oan Wei suddenly appeared behind the monster, her eyes dangerous, revealing she had hidden it and chosen this moment to strike. Han Zhan struggled to rise, questioning why Hong Ying-wei betrayed them. She laughed bitterly, admitting her true goal was to wipe everyone out. Yi Fan was in disbelief, while Han Zhan declared this was the second time he had witnessed such a phenomenon. He revealed that Hong Ying-wei was parasitized, as a phantom silver insect appeared in her eyes. This insect species could control the host's brain, endlessly divide and reproduce, and seize the body. In the past, a level 7 powerhouse was parasitized and massacred the city he protected. Eventually, a large-scale mobilization was required to destroy it, with a heavy price paid. This species was supposedly eradicated 32 years ago, yet now it has returned. Yi Fan resolved to risk his life to block the enemy, but Han Zhan insisted escape was impossible. He explained that the enemy's speed far surpassed theirs, making fleeing certain death. He only needed his comrades to hold out for a short while. As the chant rose, a healing radiance enveloped his body, and the wounds began to close. Hong Ying-wei screamed in panic, realizing she had to stop that act immediately. The monster instantly unleashed a dark strike straight at Han Zhan. Yifan swiftly raised a spiritual barrier to shield his comrade. The collision erupted loudly, the attack shattering into fragments. Suddenly, Hong Ying-wei closed in, using her verbal talent to weave the illusion that he was not immortal. Yifan stood firm, headbutting fiercely to refute her lie. Immediately after, a worm burst from her head and burrowed deep into Yifan's arm. Yifan stubbornly forced the parasite out of his body, roaring in fury. As soon as he yanked it out, he crushed it, while the mature invader above smirked coldly, preparing to retaliate. It sneered with disdain, eager to see how long the man could resist. A thunderous boom erupted as an attack crashed down like lightning. Yifan managed to form a shield in time, blocking the strike in an instant. He turned back and shouted, asking Han Zhan how much longer he needed. Han Zhan assigned the task, leaving Xia Yuwei and Yifan to handle the parasites while he faced the mature one. Xia Yuwei reverted to human form and nodded in acceptance. Han Zhan unleashed the ultimate technique, 8 Chi Fist, his body covered in spiritual power and lightning, shaking the space violently. He stomped the ground hard, cracking the earth into fragments. Like a lightning bolt, he leapt up and punched straight at the monster, shouting a challenge. But the blow was neatly dodged, creating a massive explosion of smoke like a giant furnace. The invader's eyes flared with rage, suddenly pulling a sword out from its own mouth. It pointed the blade at Han Zhan, praising his strength yet taunting him to test it. Before finishing its words, it lunged forward and slashed down. The sword strike unleashed a terrifying shockwave, the ground exploding like a giant minefield. Han Zhan raised his gauntlets to block, not retreating an inch. The clash detonated, and the monster's offensive was finally broken. Seeing those gauntlets, the invader froze in shock, stammering in disbelief. It realized they once belonged to a fallen monarch, but Han Zhan declared he was neither strong nor recognized it as a king. Finishing his words, he unleashed a golden punch like dawn, carrying immense destructive power. Even when struck, the monster dodged agilely, counterattacking while mocking the gauntlets on Han Zhan's hands. It claimed that killing him would cause the gauntlet's former owner to suffer, and the thought alone excited it. As it finished speaking, it manipulated the sword in its hand. A slash grazed Han Zhan, forcing him back while he calculated a countermeasure. He knew he must finish the foe before it absorbed all the energy, or everything would be lost. This was the line between life and death, and he clenched his teeth, deciding only a death battle remained. His whole body erupted in dazzling light, like a blazing torch in the sky. He executed the second form of 8 Chi Fist, rushing forward like an arrow, roaring words of slaughter. The punch struck directly into the monster's chest. The terrifying force shattered its body into fragments, and Han Zhan coldly declared victory. But suddenly, a voice echoed, declaring that he was the true loser. Han Zhan turned, horrified, unable to believe what he saw. The monster's body fragments slowly fused back together as if never destroyed. He stammered in shock, unable to comprehend what was happening. Once fully reborn, it arrogantly flew upward, proclaiming the end of everything. At that moment, Yifan reported that Hong Ying-wei had vanished, startling Han Zhan. Immediately, countless mysterious chains shot out, binding all 3 of them. The invader wasted no time, lifting a massive boulder overhead, roaring that none would escape. It hurled the stone down, bellowing its vow to annihilate all enemies. Yifan rushed forward to block, exerting his full strength against the crushing weight. Veins bulging, his face flushed, he turned and urged Han Zhan and the others to flee, paining the captain who called his name. But the pressure was overwhelming. He strained and roared, as if forcing himself not to collapse. Witnessing this, Han Zhan sank deeper into despair, fearing his comrade could not hold on. At the critical moment, a heaven-shaking roar rang out, unleashing the sixth form of 8-Chi. A colossal fist imprint appeared from the sky, aimed straight at the monster. The beast raised its head in panic, trembling and crying out in terror. Before it could finish speaking, the fist descended, crushing it into ashes. The massive boulder shattered, falling as a rain of scattered gravel. Han Zhan stood stunned in confusion as Li Shou-dong descended from above. Smiling calmly, he remarked they were fortunate he had arrived in time. Seeing his master, Han Zhan called out emotionally. But drained of strength, he collapsed unconscious right after speaking. Xia Yuwei and Yi Fan rushed over in panic, calling for their captain. Li Shou-dong stepped forward, ordering them to take Han Zhan away while he handled the place. Yi Fan, confused, hesitantly asked what cleanup meant. At that moment, another invader secretly slipped away. The scene shifted to a hospital in the city. Han Zhan suddenly awoke, sitting up in panic and shouting a warning to his master. Xia Yuwei, startled but overjoyed, explained he was in the hospital and had been saved. She recounted that after he fainted, the master wiped out the swarm but found no specimen, so he brought Han Zhan back for treatment. He immediately asked about Yi Fan's condition. Xia Yuwei hesitated, then replied that Yi Fan was in a special ward, his body shattered after holding the boulder. Thanks to his immortality, he wasn't dead, but his injuries were still extremely severe. At that moment, a nurse rushed over with urgent news, asking if they had seen Yi Fan. Hearing this, both of them turned pale, and when Han Zhan asked, the answer came. He had disappeared. The report struck like lightning, leaving Han Zhan stunned. Xia Yuwei suddenly remembered the master had mentioned finding the parasite personally, guessing Yi Fan went after Hong Yingwei and the brood parasite. Hearing this, Han Zhan immediately left the bed, telling himself that to eradicate them, the parasite root must be destroyed. He realized Yi Fan must have understood this rule as well, so he acted alone. Xia Yuwei nodded, then sighed with more bad news. Squad 0527 had lost all 100 accumulated points. Han Zhan roared furiously in outrage. Xia Yuwei helplessly explained that since the master completed the mission, their squad was counted as failed, losing all spoils and points to the organization. Han Zhan questioned why the master hadn't spoken up. Xia Yuwei replied that he said this was between the squad and the organization, with no interference. Han Zhan understood it was a message entrusting responsibility to him. He immediately pulled Xia Yuwei along, fiercely declaring they would reclaim what belonged to them, despite her worry over his unhealed wounds. In the main hall, other squads were excitedly celebrating, thinking the loot division was a well-earned reward. Suddenly, the doors burst open as Han Zhan and Xia Yuwei entered with overwhelming presence. He roared, directly calling out Zhao Hu to step forward. The hall fell silent. A man stepped out pretending to be friendly, but Han Zhan coldly repeated his demand. The man sneered, warning Han Zhan he might lose his life for such arrogance. Then he clenched his fist and charged, intending to strike. But Han Zhan's slap flashed like lightning, landing straight across his face. A sharp sound rang out as the opponent was sent flying miserably across the floor. Han Zhan mocked that his smiling face only made people want to hit it. The crowd watched in fear, shocked he was crushed in one move. Some even hurried to record a video to send to headquarters. The defeated man staggered up, face flushed, drawing a knife and screaming he would kill Han Zhan. But Han Zhan easily caught his arm. He immediately slammed him hard to the ground again, scornfully saying he was courting death. At that moment, a cold voice rose to stop them. Han Zhan turned and smiled when Zhao Hu finally appeared, meeting him with hateful eyes. He directly demanded Zhao Hu apologize to his whole squad. Zhao Hu sneered, dismissing it as nonsense. He asked his underling to confirm the video was sent to the superiors. Xiao Zhang smugly nodded, saying it had reached the oversight committee. Zhao Hu looked at Han Zhan arrogantly, claiming harsh punishment awaited. Xia Yu Wei panicked and pulled his arm, but Han Zhan reassured her, certain they dared not act. Someone from headquarters reported the incident was an internal matter of Shenlan Fortress, unrelated to them, angering Zhao Hu. Zhao Hu furiously pressed for an answer, but Xiaozhang revealed the oversight committee instead wanted to invite the young man to join for his superior strength. Those words made Zhao Hu flush red, his heart even more unsettled. He raged, smashing his phone while cursing bureaucratic corruption. Han Zhan coldly asked how he planned to apologize, then mentioned Zhao Hu had stolen materials from the Level 4 invader extermination battle. He demanded the treasury be opened so he could personally choose items on behalf of his squad until satisfied. Zhao Hu angrily objected, since the treasury contained precious items, but Han Zhan calmly replied that refusal would show no sincerity. Hearing this, Zhao Hu broke into a sweat, telling himself one man taking a few items would not matter much. After some thought, he agreed, but set the condition Han Zhan could only use 2 hands, which Han Zhan accepted immediately. A sudden calculation flashed in Han Zhan's mind. He twisted the ring on his finger, smiled faintly, and confirmed the hands-only rule was fair. Outside, Xiaozhang worried aloud about trouble, but Zhao Hu reassured him that Han Zhan's inexperience would leave him confused among so many treasures. He further mocked that even if Han Zhan recognized all the artifacts, 2 hands could never carry much. Xiaozhang quickly echoed, praising Zhao Hu's clever reasoning. Meanwhile, inside the treasury, Han Zhan's eyes lit up like a child entering a candy paradise. He opened the notebook given by his second senior brother, rejoicing that it allowed him to identify treasures here. He glanced over each artifact, reciting names aloud as though lecturing on their origins. Discovering more herbs and rare materials, he was astonished, hardly believing his eyes. Suddenly, his gaze halted on something hanging on the wall. Approaching, he realized it was the hide of a level 6 beast, which could be forged into powerful defensive armor. Han Zhan clenched his fist and smiled brightly with satisfaction. He suddenly shouted that he wanted to claim the entire treasure vault. Outside, Zhao Hu grew impatient, waiting, scowling at how long Han Zhan was taking. Xiaozhang saw the door open and informed Zhao Hu that he had come out. From afar, they saw Han Zhan walking with Xia Yu Wei, appearing close and indifferent to those around. She asked what he had chosen, and he only smirked slyly, saying he would tell her after they got home. The two left casually, ignoring the noise behind them. Xiaozhang wondered aloud why he carried nothing, while Zhao Hu angrily called management to check. He asked how many items were taken, and the trembling reply gave a shocking number. Zhao Hu thought it was only 5, but was told Han Zhan had taken half the vault. The news struck like thunder, sending him into a furious outburst. Xiaozhang panicked and asked again, while Zhao Hu hissed in rage, calling the act complete betrayal. He told himself that at this level the organization would never forgive easily. Zhao Hu immediately ordered a report to the higher-ups, but headquarters coldly replied, "As long as it can be settled, it's fine." That directive left him stunned and confused. That night, at the master's house, Han Zhan lounged on the sofa, smug that Zhao Hu had finally received a lesson to remember. At that moment, Xia Yu Wei stepped out wrapped only in a towel, gently inviting him to rest, making Han Zhan blush awkwardly. After a moment of fluster, he scratched his head and shyly agreed to sleep with her. Xia Yu Wei leaned closer, confessing her worry when he was injured, insisting she would not miss the chance tonight. Suddenly, a young girl appeared at the doorway. She yawned and asked who was making noise so late at night. Seeing the stranger, Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei jumped apart in shock. Xia Yu Wei was stunned and asked why someone was in the house. Han Zhan also demanded her identity, and the girl calmly replied that they were actually in her house. Han Zhan was astonished, guessing she was the master's granddaughter. She confirmed she was Li Ling Zhen, shocking Han Zhan when the system revealed she owned the ancient Shenong cauldron. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief and asked why she dressed so loosely, and she nonchalantly said it was a comfortable state for creative inspiration. Xia Yu Wei curiously asked about creation, and Li Ling Zhen proudly claimed she was a famous online author. She then asked if the two wanted to continue what they were doing earlier. If not, she suggested proceeding with a contract signing. Xia Yu Wei blushed and protested, saying there was no emotional foundation yet. Li Ling Zhen sneered, insisting contracts required no feelings. Hearing that, Xia Yu Wei grew embarrassed, lowering her head and mumbling a reply. Han Zhan tried to stay calm, saying if she made a pact with him, he could use divine illumination to awaken her again, making her excitedly agree. She eagerly undressed herself, leaving Han Zhan wide-eyed and confused. Li Ling Zhen ripped off her outer garment and rushed over, urging to sign, making Han Zhan blush and retreat, asking what she was doing. He questioned what stripping had to do with a pact, and she naively explained in scholarly fashion that in her novel, close contact was required. Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei were left speechless. He sighed, vowing to correct the girl's distorted understanding. Soon after, chains of light appeared around the two of them. He raised his hand and shouted, casting divine illumination. A powerful energy burst forth from Li Ling Zhen. Her body was activated, clothes falling away as she hugged herself, crying that it was burning hot. It felt like heat flowing through her body, yet incredibly pleasant. In the sky appeared information. Li Ling Zhen advanced to Spirit Pact level 35, possessing the Shenong Cauldron with the skill to refine all things into pure energy. Han Zhan widened his eyes, realizing this ability let her easily strengthen and break through cultivation. After a while, the energy dispersed and she returned to normal. She looked at herself in shock and asked about her new talent. Han Zhan smiled and confirmed, suggesting she try again. Hearing this, Xia Yu Wei sarcastically mocked and used the excuse of pouring water. Inwardly, she was surprised that Li Ling Zhen possessed a divine-grade talent. At that moment, strange, ambiguous sounds came from the next room. The voices drifting out made listeners imagine vague scenarios. Xia Yu Wei couldn't stand it and shouted, scolding them for being noisy at night. Han Zhan turned and asked why she reacted so strongly. She shyly denied it, then realized they were only putting ingredients into the Shenong Cauldron for refining. A completion chime rang out, signaling successful refining. Then she jabbed her finger at Han Zhan, cursing him as the one seducing Xia Yu Wei, demanding compensation for raising her since childhood. Hearing this, Xia Yu Wei clenched her teeth in fury. She erupted, shouting angrily into the woman's face. She was briefly stunned, then shouted louder, scolding Xia Yu Wei for being disrespectful and ungrateful. The woman continued to threaten, boasting about her nephew in Zone 4, claiming she could suppress Han Zhan in the Spirit Contract Master Circle. Shen Qiiji suddenly frowned and suspiciously questioned the mention of Zone 4. She immediately pointed at Shen Qiiji and cursed fiercely without hesitation. Then she turned to Li Shudong, arrogantly claiming he was Han Zhan's grandfather, leaving everyone speechless at her nonsense. She boldly declared that marrying Xia Yu Wei required gold and silver dowry, houses and cars in her name, plus support from relatives in war zones 3, 4, and 5 as intimidation. Li Shudong grew furious and slammed the table thunderously. He glared and shouted at her, ordering an immediate call to the people above. The senior brothers all pulled out their phones, calling while angrily denouncing the humiliation. Nguyen Khan of Warzone 1 calmly sipped his drink, unconcerned by the commotion. Seeing them make calls, she grew bolder, boasting she had powerful backing and feared nothing. At that moment, her phone rang. She answered proudly, but the voice on the line roared angrily, cutting ties and cursing her to die alone, warning never to drag in Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei. She froze in shock. Li Shudong sneered coldly, asking if she still dared boast about backing. She trembled and begged, but the caller kept scolding, declared a clean break, and hung up. In anger, she hurled her phone to the floor. With a dazed face, She collapsed to the ground, trembling and unable to grasp what had just happened. The restaurant manager stepped up demanding order, but she wailed and rolled on the floor crying, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Li Shudong frowned in irritation, waving angrily, dismissing her actions as nothing but trouble. Xia Yu Wei bowed her head guiltily, softly apologizing to her master and taking all responsibility. Li Shudong sighed and advised, saying Han Zhan and fellow disciples were Xia Yu Wei's true family, telling her never to return to her old home. Xia Yu Wei was moved to tears and nodded gratefully to her teacher. Li Shudong smiled and invited the group to sit and eat. He took on the chef's role, teaching them how to enjoy the 9-compartment hot pot, with vegetables needing just a quick dip. The 4 large sections were for blanching food, while the 4 small ones were for slow-cooked dishes. Han Zhan asked the master which type he belonged to, and Li Shudong replied that everyone had their own path, and no one could foresee the future. Han Zhan gazed at the hot pot in thought, pondering his destiny. Suddenly, Li Shudong was startled in shock. He panicked upon discovering the beef in the pot had disappeared. Han Zhan was stunned to see his spot piled high with cooked beef. He awkwardly tried to hide it, then shifted the topic to asking about his senior brother's spirit contracts. Jing Xuan adjusted his glasses and seriously asked about roasting sweet potatoes, making Xia Yu Wei blush, while Han Zhan stammered. Afterward, Jing Xuan explained the benefits of spirit contract masters sharing rooms. Spirit contracts have 2 forms, transforming into objects or into human shape. The seniors' contracted spirits were currently in human form, holding their places in substitute. Han Zhan was surprised to learn spirit contract masters and their spirits could merge or fight independently. Xia Yu Wei confirmed it required cohabitation. Jing Xuan suddenly asked Xia Yu Wei's rank, and Han Zhan explained her special ability restored divinity, raising her from rank E to SSS. The 3 listeners were stunned, unable to believe such a miraculous power existed. Han Zhan smiled confidently, saying he never chose spirits carelessly, for his unique talent could awaken divinity even in weak ones. Inwardly, he thought of the 10 divine artifacts. Li Shudong sternly ordered Han Zhan's talent to be kept secret, and Jing Xuan must absolutely safeguard information about Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei. Han Zhan and Jing Xuan respectfully answered in unison. Ye Chu and Liu Jingxuan joyfully reported that Great Xia had won 19 consecutive battles, reclaimed 6 territories, expanded land by 20%, and made progress in investigating the insect race. Li Shudong happily raised his cup to praise the achievements. He loudly toasted to the future of Great Xia. Everyone clinked glasses, and the joyful banquet passed quickly. Late at night, Han Zhan followed his master home, worried if he was drunk, but Li Shudong laughed it off as nothing. He said they should first take a look at their new residence. Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei entered, marveling at the spacious house. Li Shudong revealed this was his wife's hometown. Han Zhan curiously asked why his master's wife was not living with him. The question made Li Shudong freeze, his body trembling. His face filled with grief as he revealed his wife had sacrificed her life. He said the world only remembered his deeds, forgetting the wife who risked everything. Without her, he was nothing. Xia Yu Wei wept, while Han Zhan bowed his head, apologizing for bringing up the painful memory. Li Shudong steadied himself, urging Han Zhan to treat Xia Yu Wei as a soulmate, not a tool. Han Zhan solemnly promised to cherish her. Han Zhan asked for his master's wife's name so she would not be forgotten, and the master emotionally told him she was called Ling Mai. He recounted that in a historic battle he slew one insect emperor, while she risked her life to kill 2. Had she survived, the glory of saving Great Xia should have belonged to her. Late at night, the master told them to choose rooms to rest, while he hugged his wife's photo outside on the grass. Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei appeared, promising to watch the moon with him in place of the departed. Li Shudong was moved. Seeing the young pair reminded him of his youth with Xiao Mai. He reminded them that protecting love required strength, deciding to pass down his specialty martial art. He raised his head and roared like a beast. With one punch, he instantly split the tree in front of him. Li Shudong introduced the fist art called 8-Lock Fist. With 8 locks in the body, unlocking all would surpass the limit. Hanjan also struck, his aura identical, then asked the master if he was correct. The master was shocked, saying Nguyen Khan took half a year, but Hanjan mastered it just by watching. Hanjan explained he relied on intuition to sense the energy positions. Li Shudong suddenly charged with a punch, shouting he would teach Hanjan the 8-Lock Fist through real combat. Hanjan couldn't react in time, took the punch head-on, and fell to the ground. Writhing in pain, he groaned, while Xia Yuwei panicked. Li Shudong felt pleased, wanting to suppress a genius by force. He felt great satisfaction teaching such an outstanding disciple. Through the night, Hanjan's screams echoed as he begged his master to go easy. The next morning, Xia Yuwei worriedly asked if his face still hurt. But Hanjan laughed it off, saying the master was only joking. Suddenly, Wang Lu Mao appeared blocking the way, mocking Hanjan as once brilliant in exams but now worthless. He even bumped into him deliberately while passing. Xia Yuwei wondered about his intent, but Hanjan said not to bother, just annoying vermin. They then headed straight to the principal's office. Chen Guangpu sternly informed them that the higher-ups had assigned them to defend Deep Blue City, directly at the front line. He handed them the mission letter, and Hanjan was stunned at the word front line. The principal admitted it wasn't the best use of talent, but the decision was final despite his protests. Hanjan accepted without hesitation. In his heart, he thought this was the path his master once mentioned. Wang Lu Mao still followed, mocking that offending the government could only lead to destruction. As they left, he and his cronies laughed loudly, bragging about sleeping with Xiao Mei. Hanjan looked at him with the gaze of a man already marked for death. Wang Lu Mao sneered, channeling power into his hand provocatively, showing he would not be easily trampled. Hanjan, unafraid, charged forward with a punch, determined to humiliate him and avenge past grievances. Their fists clashed with a deafening sound. The crack of breaking bones rang out, and his arm snapped in two. He clutched his arm, wailing miserably like a beaten dog. Hanjan did not stop, pressing forward as his foe trembled in terror. A punch to his face shattered his nose and twisted his features. He collapsed unconscious on the spot. Hanjan took Xia Yuwei's hand and left, saying the punishment was deserved, then suggested they go file their report. The principal, having witnessed everything, pretended to order Wang Lu Mao, fainted, to be taken to the infirmary. Hanjan arrived at the reporting office, but the staff coldly told him to wait outside and get a number. He raised his head and firmly declared he was there to directly receive his mission. The clerk was briefly startled, then laughed mockingly, calling the deputy captain and mentioning Hanjan as a rare SSS talent. He quickly entered the data and announced Hanjan was assigned to Team 0527 as its captain. In the city defense structure, each city had its own monitoring squad, while other teams were numbered by region. The office of Team 0527 was to the left of the entrance, and the clerk invited Hanjan there. He replied with thanks. He and Xia Yuwei entered, only to find a shabby, trash-like room. The stench made Hanjan frown in disappointment at how messy Team 0527's office was. A man lay sprawled while a beautiful red-haired girl stepped out and asked who they were and why they had come. Hanjan introduced himself as the new captain of Team 0527. The girl was stunned, breaking into a sweat. The man lazily cracked an eye open, muttering, "Huh?" in surprise. Then he sneered, mocking that a greenhorn dared claim to be captain. He told them to scram, enraging Xia Yuwei. Hanjan inwardly despised how such a man was still a team member. But right after speaking, the man got off the bed. He approached Xia Yuwei with a lewd smile, praising her voice and figure, suggesting she become his contracted spirit. Before he could finish, Han Zhan landed a crushing punch to his stomach. His eyes bulged as his body flew back, spewing blood profusely. Even after the hit, he calmly picked up a liquor bottle, while the red-haired girl spoke up. She told Yi Fan to keep dealing with the new captain while she went to rest. He immediately shouted for money to buy alcohol first. She slammed the door, leaving only the words, "I have no money." Yi Fan stood up, brushed himself off, and coldly laughed that Team 0527 was so poor they couldn't even afford alcohol, advising Han Zhan to leave. Han Zhan replied the poverty was only temporary while he was here. He tapped away on his laptop, sneering at Han Zhan as someone ignorant of his limits. He showed him the rankings, with Team 0527 dead last, certain to be disbanded at year's end and forced into the inner city. The inner city was chaotic, filthy, and had an extremely harsh living environment. He gulped liquor and tossed the empty bottle at Han Zhan's feet, warning him to get lost if he didn't want to die. Han Zhan looked at the bottle, thinking Zhao Hu deliberately wanted to force him into the inner city, but he would never let that happen. Xia Yu Wei called Yi Fan trash and urged leaving, but Han Zhan replied that fleeing only bred weakness, strength came from overcoming. He added that even if they switched teams, Zhao Hu would never let them go. Instead of avoiding, he decided to stay and reform Team 0527, making it the strongest in Deep Blue. That way Zhao Hu's plan would be ruined. As they stepped out, Hong Yingwei appeared, coldly ordering them to leave, saying they weren't welcome. Han Zhan asked if she really intended to sit and wait for death, living in despair, calling her by her true name, Bai Shuang. His revelation made her scream in rage, demanding how he knew the truth. With his system, Han Zhan clearly saw she was Bai Shuang, an A-rank spirit with shape-shifting abilities to conceal herself. He smiled, reminding her he was Han Zhan and had only shown a glimpse of his power. Inwardly, he thought, though she acted indifferent, the fact she endured Yi Fan's extortion showed she was still maintaining the team, meaning 0527 still had hope. She cautiously asked his intentions, warning if he meant to use her secret as leverage, he should give up. He proposed working together. She doubted his ability, so he promised profit-sharing to prove himself. At the mention of money, she quickly agreed, inwardly realizing he might truly see through her disguise. He smiled, assigning her to select missions while he would evaluate them. She accepted. She opened her tablet, presenting 3 suitable missions for him to review. The 3 were finding a missing person, 50 points, mediating a spirit contract, 10 points, escorting children, 10 points day, all low difficulty with few points. He immediately chose the one with the highest reward. It was a mission to clear insects in the sewers, worth 300 points, with extra materials, extremely dangerous, recommended for a team of 6 to 8. He insisted on taking it at once, leaving her shocked and objecting since the minimum manpower exceeded their ability, but he calmly said he understood. He declared this was the only way to quickly accumulate points, then confirmed the mission successfully. She was horrified, reminding him that failure would deduct 10% of their points. He reassured her, saying they had backing. She sighed inwardly, thinking since they had allied, even death must be faced together. Elsewhere, a young man was shocked to hear the sewer mission had already been taken. His teammates grew angry, suspecting Team 0018 had monopolized the 300 points, but then dismissed it since that team was still negotiating alliances. The group decided to ambush at the sewer entrance to see who claimed it, while Han Zhan's side also moved out. She warned there were 8 insects of level 2 or higher inside the nest. Hearing this, Han Zhan and Xia Yu Wei exchanged a deep look. The two immediately rushed ahead, leaving Hong Yingwei stunned, while instructing Bai Shuang to stay and wait. She was stunned, unable to believe he dared face a level 2 swarm alone, such recklessness. From the direction of the two came a shrill, echoing noise. Hong Yingwei grew suspicious inside, fearing something bad had happened. Unable to hold back, she rushed forward, thinking an accident had occurred. But upon arriving, she was shocked to see both unharmed. Around them lay countless insect corpses, while he calmly wiped his clothes, saying it was over. She was aghast, eyes wide, unable to believe he had wiped them all out. He confirmed and told her to quickly harvest resources from the corpses as they were valuable. After giving instructions, he and Zia Yuwei calmly left, casually carrying a corpse suspected to be a missing guardian, leaving Bai Shuang confused about his true identity. An hour later, another group entered the area. Before them lay a hellish scene, all 10 level 2 insects slain. Their numbers beyond the report. The inspector confirmed each was killed by a single fatal strike, voice trembling. The group looked to their captain, stunned that the mission was over. Yet none believed anyone could do such a thing. Meanwhile, in another office sat Zhao Hu. A young man reported that Squad 0527 had completed 2 major missions, with points soaring to 350. Zhao Hu exploded with rage, slamming the table and shouting, blaming his subordinates' incompetence. His heart burned with hatred, vowing that even with backing, Han Zhan would not escape retaliation. He ordered his men to inform other squads to seize every mission in the city, leaving no chance for the rival. At dinner in Li Shudong's home, he asked about the conflict between Han Zhan and Zhao Hu, intending to help, but Han Zhan politely refused and voiced suspicion that the Guardian organization had decayed. Li Shudong solemnly said, "When rot spreads, a cleansing flame is needed for rebirth," and he chose Han Zhan to bear that mission. Han Zhan was stunned, asking if he was that flame. The teacher confirmed but reminded that flames can also be extinguished, the future depending on his choices. Han Zhan nodded, then asked how to break through the level 8 bottleneck. The teacher replied with 4 words: between life and death. Han Zhan pondered deeply on the meaning of these words. For now, he set it aside, resting after the battle, lying relaxed on the bed. Suddenly, Xia Yuwei entered, shyly asking to stay the night, leaving Han Zhan stunned by her alluring presence. He awkwardly asked why she did not return to her own room, since the villa was spacious. She blushed and admitted the teacher had locked all the rooms, so she had no choice but to come to him. He, still naive, suggested he could sleep on the floor to stay cool. Xia Yuwei grew angry, forcing him to sleep on the bed, while he could only smile awkwardly. In the end, the two lay together, spending the night side by side. The next morning they went to the meeting room, Han Zhan refreshed and proposing to take on new missions. As the door opened, Hong Yingwei and Yi Fan were waiting, shocked to realize Han Zhan was an SSS-rank spirit contract master, the Academy's #1 genius who had defeated level 2 swarms and even dueled level 3 foes. Hong Yingwei bowed in apology for misunderstanding, but Han Zhan only smiled, saying they were colleagues and no courtesy was needed. She gazed at him thoughtfully, wondering why the government let such a genius serve as a guardian, fearing his talent would be wasted. He replied that only the weak are constrained by circumstance, while he would change the situation. Yi Fan warned that he was now too prominent and in conflict with Zhao Hu, so the future would be much harder. At that moment, Hong Yingwei checked the system and angrily discovered all missions in Shenlan City had been taken, leaving the group stuck. Han Zhan was surprised, then asked if Shenlan City had no tasks left. What about other cities? He suggested switching their registration to Shanghai to continue operating. Immediately, the screen displayed a list of new missions, all unclaimed. Hong Yingwei reminded them this meant traveling to other cities to complete tasks. She also warned they would have to cross lands infested with high-level swarms. The journey would therefore be extremely dangerous. The four quickly boarded a pickup truck, racing along the desolate road, flanked only by ruins and lifeless silence. From afar, a swarm of insects attacked violently, but despite the constant collisions, the truck never stopped, shooting forward like an arrow through the night. Xia Yuwei asked in shock what those were, and Han Zhan calmly explained they were death gray fangs, level 1 swarming insects whose destructive power grew with their numbers. Hearing this, Yi Fan instantly became excited. He jumped up, still holding his wine bottle, eyes fixed forward, shouting in exhilaration. The swarm of death-gray fangs gathered into massive tornadoes that blotted out the sky, their pull devouring everything. All three in the back of the truck were terrified, realizing the swarm's destructive force was unimaginable. Yet Yi-Fan grew even more ecstatic, draining his liquor and roaring that he wanted to charge out and fight the swarm. While driving, Hong Ying-wei noticed something unusual ahead and quickly asked for instructions. She reported a caravan of merchants was being hunted by the death-gray fang tornado. She hesitated, asking if the group should intervene. Han Zhan immediately decided they must save them, shouting to turn at full speed. Yi-Fan raised his wine bottle, laughing like a madman and roaring into battle. Hong Ying-wei spun the wheel sharply, driving like a master racer. The violent drift knocked Yi-Fan off balance, his head slamming against the truck wall. Blood mixed with wine flowed, yet he felt no pain. Instead, laughed wildly in pleasure. Meanwhile, the merchant's convoy fell into chaos. Many vehicles sucked into the vortex and shredded, with only a few desperately fleeing. In one vehicle, Shang Ti-ding and her old butler struggled, as he reported the car could no longer accelerate and would be caught within minutes. He stared tensely at the terrifying storm drawing closer. The butler shouted into the radio, ordering the guards to prepare to sacrifice themselves to shield the young lady. Shang Ti-ding panicked, tearfully begging them to stop. But the reply came firm. Protecting her was their duty. The guard vehicles immediately turned around as the commander gave a countdown. The entire team unleashed firepower into the insect storm, fearless. Explosions lit the sky, but the swarm's strength was overwhelming. Each vehicle sucked in and destroyed, their screams echoing in the flames. Shang Ti-ding wept in agony, believing their deaths were her fault, but the butler comforted her that their sacrifice was their glory. Amid despair, the roar of an engine thundered from afar, startling them both. Looking out, they saw blades of light cleaving the night, techniques like wind slicing into the monstrous vortex. Han Zhan stood behind the cab, his fingers strumming the zither, unleashing a fierce sound attack across the swarm. Each note became phantom blades, tearing apart the insects' bodies, leaving shrill death cries echoing. Shang Ti-ding peeked outside, eyes wide and mouth agape at the unreal sight. Han Zhan's truck gradually aligned beside Shang Ti-ding's vehicle. On the speeding roof, Han Zhan calmly continued to play. The faces of Shang Ti-ding's people showed awe and disbelief, amazed someone could shatter the storm. Though the danger eased, the tornado still pursued, suddenly firing volleys of venomous spikes at them. As the deadly tips shot forward, Yi-Fan threw himself in the way, shouting a warning, making Han Zhan cry out in alarm to stop. But it was too late. The poison spikes pierced Yi-Fan's body. He collapsed onto the truck, leaving Han Zhan frozen in shock. Though poisoned, Yi-Fan still laughed gleefully, while Han Zhan hurriedly pulled out the spikes, warning the venom could kill instantly. Strangely, the poisoned needles fell out on their own, and his wounds healed rapidly, as if immortal. The sight shocked Han Zhan, who quickly revealed Yi-Fan's innate talent, immortal divinity. He pondered whether this power was merely extreme regeneration or truly indestructibility. Yi-Fan laughed, guessing Han Zhan's thoughts, then hinted he would reveal more if helped. Han Zhan turned away coldly, showing little interest, making Yi-Fan sigh in complaint. Suddenly, Han Zhan sneezed loudly. He scratched his head awkwardly, joking someone must be talking about him, while Xia Yu-wei looked ahead and announced they had reached the first target. Hearing this, Yi-Fan also turned his head in surprise to observe. Ahead appeared a swarm of monstrous insects buzzing fiercely as they flew closer. The vicious creatures had saw-like fangs, exuding killing intent. Xia Yu-wei shivered in fear at their grotesque appearance. In contrast, Han Zhan smiled encouragingly, seeing it as a chance to earn points, and Xia Yu-wei gathered her energy to transform for battle. Once Xia Yu-wei had transformed into a weapon, the swarm charged straight at the group. Han Zhan kept strumming his zither, each note forming waves of force crashing onto the insects. The sounds became invisible blades piercing their hard exoskeletons, making them shriek in agony. In an instant, each one collapsed lifeless to the ground, piling corpses along the road. Yi Fan sat stunned, unable to believe Han Zhan had annihilated them so easily. At the front, Hong Ying Wei sweated nervously, whispering that his power surpassed imagination. On the system interface, countless notifications appeared. Missions 1, 2, and 3 all completed, leaving the team both exhausted and exhilarated. Elsewhere, another squad was monitoring Han Zhan's team's mission completion speed. They marveled in disbelief that in Shanghai a team could finish missions in seconds, like a one-sided massacre, suspecting they were veteran frontline soldiers. Their captain looked closely and discovered it was Squad 0527 from Shenlan City. Fury erupted, and he smashed the communicator, accusing the Shenlan team of deliberately stealing achievements. He roared, rallying Squad 1 to confront them and assert dominance against the mission thieves. Under orders, the squad responded in unison, boarding vehicles to hunt them, secretly resentful of such overbearing newcomers. A green-haired man with glasses laughed excitedly, declaring that with unity they would surely claim the Serpent Beast extermination mission ahead. The red-haired man immediately agreed. At that moment, someone in the squad cried out in shock, pointing ahead. The giant serpent's corpse had already been sliced apart, scattered across the ground. Seeing this, everyone froze, while the captain gnashed his teeth in fury that another group had stolen the mission. Unable to hold back, he slammed the truck and ordered Zhao Ya to track down that group for questioning. The driver obeyed immediately, turning the vehicle back. But the red-haired scarred man panicked, warning it was too late. Though the captain shouted to force a meeting, he finally revealed the others had already left Shanghai. Their black pickup truck had just departed the city, easily recognizable. Meanwhile, Han Zhan's truck drove on in cheerful spirits, in stark contrast to the rival captain's rage. Overcome by anger, the opposing captain spat blood, alarming his teammates for his condition. At the Guardian's headquarters, in his office, Tu Mingxian, also called Three-Bar Hand, typed on his keyboard, puzzled by the sudden surge in mission completion rates in Shanghai and Shenlan. A subordinate reported that an aggressive squad from Shenlan was monopolizing missions, causing a chain reaction. He immediately demanded their files. He stressed that he wanted to uncover the truth about this overbearing team. A while later, the subordinate returned with a set of classified documents. Tu Mingxian dismissed him and began reading. The first file was on Yi Fan, former captain, SS rank, once a frontline soldier, recipient of the Purple Star Medal, now possessing the immortality talent, theoretically unkillable, his file top secret. Next was Hong Ying Wei, A rank, former teammate of Yi Fan, talent lies that can alter appearance, identity, and turn fabrications into reality, extremely dangerous, also classified as top secret. Reading this, Tu Mingxian was stunned, shocked that 2 consecutive files were top secret. Like a nightmare. He reassured himself that the last profile would surely be less unusual. But upon opening Han Zhan's file, it contained only a few lines. Current captain of Squad 0572, just graduated from Qingdong Academy, all other details erased, file stamped top secret, leaving him even more incredulous. At that moment, the phone rang, interrupting his confusion. Tu Mingxian picked up, hearing a steady voice introducing, "I am Lin Jing-xuan." He was inwardly shaken, for this was the commander of War Zone Number 2, a figure of immense status. He immediately changed to a respectful tone, but Lin Jing-xuan sternly cut him off, saying the files were beyond his authority and not to be read further, leaving Tu Mingxian no choice but to obey. After the call ended, he sat silently in thought, wondering what status Han Zhan held to warrant direct intervention from such a superior. At that time, Han Zhan was continuing battles with his team in nearby cities. A giant centipede stood before them, as he strummed his zither, unleashing violent sound waves, clashed against its ferocious charge and hundreds of sharp legs, then finished it with a powerful final strike, slicing the beast into pieces. After the victory, he told Hong Ying-wei to check their current points. Wan Wei operated seriously, while behind him, Yi Fan danced around with a wine bottle, confident the team would rank first. But when the result appeared, Wan Wei's face darkened. Only 1 to 800 points, ranking last, which made Han Zhan question immediately. The whole team was stunned. Yi Fan lost his joy, and Xia Yuwei guessed maybe another group advanced faster. Wan Wei objected, insisting it was Zhao Hu's dirty trick, while Han Zhan looked at the ranking unwilling to accept it. He noticed the second-to-last team had 2,300 points, with dozens of groups sharing the same suspicious score. Wan Wei wondered if all of them had SSS-grade talent, but Han Zhan analyzed that it was actually collective point manipulation, splitting results equally without breaking rules. Wan Wei fumed, feeling their team was always unfairly targeted. But Han Zhan stayed calm, advising everyone not to worry too much since they still had a chance to turn the tide. The whole team agreed to return to Shenlan, and soon, Han Zhan and Xia Yuwei respectfully reported back to Li Shudong. The old teacher sipped tea, smiled kindly at seeing his students safe, and asked about the results of their trip. Han Zhan recounted with slight disappointment that though they lacked high achievement, they saved a merchant caravan, which made Li Shudong realize it was Shang-Si Ting, the girl who once complained about his student. He laughed heartily, recalling how days earlier Shang-Si Ting kept pestering him for ways to become stronger. Han Zhan, surprised, learned that the teacher was an old friend of her grandfather. Her clan was a top weapon-forging power, and Shang-Si Ting was like a granddaughter to him. Han Zhan was secretly astonished, not expecting the girl he saved to have such a powerful background. The teacher continued, saying her family had wanted her to give up, but thanks to Han Zhan's actions, her determination grew stronger, leaving Han Zhan worried he had caused trouble. Li Shudong only laughed, explaining the goods were actually prepared for the two of them, then produced a suitcase that made Xia Yuwei curious about its contents. He opened it, revealing 2 glowing vials of medicine, the breakthrough elixirs. Han Zhan was surprised and asked if they could enhance everything from strength and speed to talent, but the teacher sternly ordered him to use them immediately. Both hurriedly accepted and bowed in gratitude. Han Zhan stared at the quantity in shock, while Xia Yuwei curiously asked its use. He explained it was spirit energy pills, able to increase one's energy by 1%, leaving Xia Yuwei utterly astonished. At that moment, Li Ling-zhen rushed over, worried because the alchemy fire inside her body hadn't gone out. In her haste, she slipped onto Han Zhan, making them both fall as he cried out in pain. Before he could get up, she grabbed his clothes, urging him to extinguish the fire blazing inside her. Panicking, he grabbed Xia Yuwei's hand for help, but Li Ling-zhen ignored it, sitting on top of him, sweating as waves of pleasure surged, and she moaned continuously. In stark contrast, Han Zhan below clenched his teeth in agony, enduring it like torture. Seeing the indecent scene, Xia Yuwei rushed over, declaring she also wanted to help. At dawn, Han Zhan lay exhausted, complaining he had barely rested all night. In contrast, Li Ling-zhen cheerfully praised his vast knowledge, while Xia Yuwei vaguely admitted she felt purer after the interaction. Han Zhan panicked, sternly reminding the group to return to their main mission. Li Ling-zhen curiously asked, and he replied they needed to investigate the parasite samples and the whereabouts of missing Team 527, making her wonder more. Xia Yuwei showed her a photo, revealing Hong Ying-wei. Li Ling-zhen studied it and recalled seeing that person, saying she often appeared in the dance hall. Xia Yuwei asked in surprise how she knew, and she replied she also frequently visited the city's largest dance hall, Wei Feng. Han Zhan was excited to have found a clear lead. He took out a spray bottle and sprayed both girls, making them cover their noses at the foul smell. He explained it was rhododendron essence, which strongly agitated parasitic insects when detected. The three of them entered the Wei Feng dance hall. The lively atmosphere and seductive dancers briefly left Han Zhan dazed. He quickly asked the receptionist about a girl named Gong Yanwei. The staff member smiled strangely, repeating the name. Suddenly, Han Zhan loudly shouted Hong Yanwei, echoing through the hall. His shout made everyone instantly turn, shocked, as if hearing a heavenly decree. A guest, thrilled, shouted that the one who called the name would pay all bills and the entire feast. The crowd erupted instantly, cheering and dancing as if hitting a jackpot. Han Zhan stood dumbfounded, asking the staff again, who slowly explained that yesterday a trickster made a rule. Anyone shouting those three words must cover all debts and festivities. Xia Yue angrily cursed, while Han Zhan immediately deduced that must be the culprit. The staff confirmed and handed over a small wooden box, saying it was left specifically for him and couldn't be opened. Han Zhan took it, eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion, wondering what was inside. He carefully opened the box as if facing something dangerous. Inside was nothing but a single piece of paper. The note recounted Yi Ming's rewarded journey before vanishing, along with crucial info that killing the parasite mother would wipe out the entire brood. After reading, all three stared blankly at each other, Li Lingzhen doubtful about the true meaning of the message. Han Zhan immediately deduced that the parasitic infection began in February and that 7 people had been afflicted so far. Xia Yue and Li Lingzhen were horrified, their faces blank as if struck by a great shock. Han Zhan quickly faked a stomachache, pretending he urgently needed the restroom. Without waiting, he dashed off like the wind, leaving the two unable to react. In his hurry, he ran through the corridor without watching his path. He accidentally bumped into a man in a suit, only managing to apologize before rushing inside. After relieving himself, he felt extremely light and refreshed. But when stepping out, the man from earlier blocked the door, glaring and muttering about hating the smell of rhododendron. Before he could explain, the man swung a massive punch at him. Han Zhan was briefly surprised. Then his eyes shone golden as he shifted into battle mode. With just a light push, he sent the opponent flying into the air, screaming like a thrown doll. As he was flung, a tiny larva sprayed out of the man's nose. Han Zhan immediately grew alert, murmuring the parasite's name. Without hesitation, he clenched his fist tightly. The larva was crushed, bursting apart grotesquely like exploding fireworks. At that moment, Xia Yue and Li Lingzhen rushed over in panic, asking what happened. Seeing the man collapsed, they were shocked, and Han Zhan sighed, explaining the nightclub owner had been parasitized but was now handled. Xia Yue worried aloud about who else might be possessed, while Li Lingzhen speculated that the culprit was likely someone close, possibly Yi Ming's teammate. Han Zhan reminded them not to argue, saying they should withdraw first and gather more evidence. But before they could leave, an aggressive youth appeared, screaming to kill Han Zhan, waving a gleaming knife as he charged like a mad beast. He remained calm, swiftly twisting his body to dodge the slash. At the same time, he launched a powerful kick, sending the attacker flying like a ball. From the youth's body crawled out another parasite identical to the last. Han Zhan frowned, muttering in frustration, then quickly destroyed it. Even though Li Lingzhen was used to such sights, she still shuddered and screamed in fear at another true parasitic insect. Xia Yue approached, recognized the victim, and was shocked to find he was once a subordinate of Zhao Hu. Hearing this, Han Zhan's eyes lit up as he reasoned that all parasitic cases were tied to the Wei Feng nightclub and Yi Ming. He connected the dots, realizing the common link was their direct relation to Zhao Hu, the current acting captain. After piecing it together, Han Zhan's face darkened, gritting his teeth with worry that he had guessed where Yi Fan would go. At the same time, Zhao Hu was indulging in pleasure, laughing with satisfaction. Beneath him, a disheveled girl moaned, continuously praising his roughness that thrilled her. But the pleasure was cut short as hurried footsteps echoed outside, followed by the door being violently kicked open. Yifan appeared at the doorway, eyes full of killing intent, roaring Zhao Hu's name. He accused Zhao Hu of murdering Yi Ming to seize the position and of using parasites to control awakened geniuses. He raged that despite so many crimes, Zhao Hu still arrogantly walked free. Zhao Hu showed no fear, only sneering, mocking Yifan as Yi Ming's useless younger brother, even jeering about his dead wife. Yifan furiously declared he would settle the score today. Zhao Hu coldly replied that the weak deserved elimination and threatened that reinforcements were coming. Soon after, a group of his armed underlings rushed in, asking after their captain. He pointed straight at Yifan, ordering them to kill him immediately, and the men charged like wild beasts. Yifan gritted his teeth, taking a defensive stance ready to counterattack. He shouted to fight to the death, activating his power to form a shield blocking the assault. The sudden arrival of Han Zhan and his teammates at the door stunned the entire room. Without a word, Han Zhan swung his hand, blasting Zhao Hu's henchmen down like toppled chess pieces, screams filling the air. Zhao Hu was shocked and trembling, unable to believe it was really Han Zhan. Yifan was also surprised, his eyes grateful as he looked over, and Han Zhan smiled, saying he could not let him fight alone. That simple yet powerful statement left Yifan choked for words. One henchman bitterly accused Han Zhan of colluding with the assassin and threatened his life. Han Zhan calmly replied this was a personal feud, anyone afraid could retreat, but they mocked and all charged like bloodthirsty beasts. Han Zhan only curled his lip in disdain at the sight. He rushed into battle, striking with lightning speed, each blow knocking down enemies, none able to touch him. In moments, the entire gang was beaten to a heap on the floor like discarded scrap. The once brawny men now lay bruised and deformed, barely recognizable. Yifan watched in awe, amazed at how Han Zhan's martial prowess had advanced so greatly in such a short time. Seeing the situation turn against him, Zhao Hu turned to flee, but Li Lingzhen spotted it in time and shouted to Han Zhan. At her warning, Han Zhan immediately rushed to block the path, a cold smile on his face. Standing before his foe, he ignited flames over his entire body, coldly declaring there was no escape, making Zhao Hu pale in fear. Before he could react, Han Zhan unleashed a thunderous punch straight into his chest, knocking him down in agony. Zhao Hu howled in bitter hatred. From his head, a parasite burst out, attempting to flee. Han Zhan caught sight of it, smirking as if he had been waiting. He struck out with a palm, annihilating the parasite instantly. Its corpse splattered flat on the wall, blood everywhere, and Han Zhan muttered, "This was not the queen." At that moment, another squad rushed in, saw Zhao Hu collapsed, and angrily accused Han Zhan of killing their captain, warning of consequences for crossing the city guard. Han Zhan was startled, inwardly realizing he had fallen into a trap. Half an hour earlier, in a lavish room, a girl brought documents to the city lord, whose forehead was infested by a true parasitic insect. She trembled in terror at the sight, stammering his name. Before she could hear a reply, the room echoed with a horrifying scream. Back in the present, Han Zhan's face grew solemn as he warned he had a bad premonition. He urged everyone to retreat and seek their master's help, but Xia Yuwei firmly insisted she would face the danger with him. Han Zhan pulled her away, urgently saying there was no time. Meanwhile, at the city lord's place, he ordered a signal sent to arrest Han Zhan on charges of assassinating Zhao Hu. The city lord smirked in satisfaction, declaring the prey had finally taken the bait. Han Zhan was forced to make a hasty retreat. On the way, he worried deeply, deciding he must soon separate from Xia Yuwei and the team to keep them from being dragged into peril. As soon as he stepped outside, a spaceship descended from the sky, blocking his path. From it emerged a murderous figure, coldly demanding Han Zhan's surrender for killing members of the organization. The man used strange force to press Han Zhan to his knees, but though in pain, his eyes remained firm, refusing to yield. The scene shifted to a desolate land outside the city. There, Li Shou Dong calmly sipped tea, mocking his old friend's secrecy. In front of him stood a mysterious black-cloaked figure, voice cryptic with a hint of lament, saying Li Shodong's chess piece had fallen into a trap and would soon be executed. Hearing this, Li Shodong's hand froze, setting the teacup down heavily, his body trembling. His composure vanished, replaced by a ferocious aura like a beast about to strike, as he glared at the opponent and demanded why the direct targeting. The black-cloaked figure calmly replied that even if this quantum clone were killed, it mattered little, since countless other copies existed. Li Shodong only chuckled softly, admitting he had forgotten that detail. The dark figure's silhouette faded, leaving a message that more surprises still awaited him. Jingshan stepped out from behind, bowing and asking if the master wished to intervene and save the junior brother. Li Shodong calmly said the time was not yet right. They thought they had trapped Han Zhan, but perhaps he was the bait Li Shodong had deliberately released. He compared the world to a chessboard, sighing lightly and reminding Han Zhan he must endure many hardships. Meanwhile, Han Zhan is bound and imprisoned in a dark, freezing room. The newcomer interrogates him, forcing a confession. Han Zhan grits his teeth and denies wrongdoing. Enraged, the old man punches his chest hard, making him scream in pain. Exhausted and nearly powerless, the old man presses close, forcing Han Zhan's head up, coldly warning that only 2 exits remain. He offers 2 choices: join them in the new era, or refuse and await being cleaved in half. Han Zhan questions the level 4 insects, and the old man admits they were deliberately released as useful tools. After listening, Han Zhan only smirks mysteriously and declares he has made his choice. To their expectation, Han Zhan calmly announces he will take another path beyond the 2 options. His reply drives the old man into furious rage, shouting that he is seeking his own death. The next day, news spreads everywhere that Han Zhan rebelled and will be executed by beheading. From a skyscraper, the city lord watches the upcoming execution, asking about the 3 who escaped earlier. Soldiers report they are still at large, too cunning, and likely hiding in the mansion. The city lord cuts them off, coldly orders the hunt to continue, and the subordinate bows before leaving. He steps to the balcony overlooking the execution ground, suspicious of Han Zhan's calmness, guessing he still has a trump card. Han Zhan stays silent, recalling his master's cryptic advice, suspecting a larger scheme is at play. The crowd at the execution ground buzzes in shock that an SS-level genius is now branded a cold-blooded traitor. The city lord steps forward, delivering a powerful greeting to all citizens of Shenlan. The people below cheer in surprise at his personal appearance. He stirs emotions, praising Han Zhan's talent yet condemning his crimes, asking if the people should see him executed. Inflamed by his words, the crowd roars for blood, chanting to kill the traitor. Seeing this, the city lord smiles arrogantly, confident Han Zhan will surely die today. When anger peaks, he signals for the execution to begin immediately. Soldiers obey in unison, bowing before moving to carry out the sentence. The execution device activates, the blade dropping straight toward Han Zhan's neck. The blade falls with a chilling sound, but suddenly halts just inches from his throat. The soldiers panic, whispering that the execution device may be malfunctioning. The city lord shouts furiously, demanding the one who dared intervene to step out. Shang Tiding steps forth from the crowd, loudly declaring he will not allow his benefactor to be executed. He is shocked, questioning why a merchant like her dares interfere in national law. Xia Yuwei and Yi Fan step out together, firmly declaring they also oppose the sentence. A man in black coldly states that since Han Zhan was brought to the execution stage, the city lord has already lost. Li Shodong sips tea calmly, asserting the game is far from over. He says it is still too early to judge the outcome. The opponent replies coldly, telling him to just wait and see. Then the phone rings, with news the enemy escaped, losing the chance to trace the mastermind. Li Shodong smiles, probing if Lao Shang is behind it, but receives denial and presses further about clues. The caller reveals the discovery of an underground group called Po Xiao. On Han Zhan's side, Xia Yu Wei's group is surrounded by crowds debating their interference, believing the matter must be complicated. Shang Ding steps forward, declaring the people were deceived by Kang Xuan, and Han Zhan truly sacrificed for humanity. She points toward the giant screen, replaying his battles. In the video, Han Zhan declares his purpose as a spirit contract master is to protect humanity, not merely exist. He calls for exterminating the insects to stop them from spreading disasters in the city. The viewers waver, many doubting whether such a passionate man could truly be a traitor. As the atmosphere turns chaotic, a commanding voice from above forces silence. The overwhelming aura makes everyone suffocate. Yifan is terrified, while Xia Yu Wei suspects it may be Ivan. The icy man declares Han Zhan is the target of Po Xiao, and no one may interfere. He insists Han Zhan's death is inevitable and swings down his massive hand. At that instant, a mysterious power appears, blocking the strike. The two forces collide, triggering a devastating explosion that shakes heaven and earth. The man is stunned, unable to grasp what just happened. An even stronger force suddenly surges, blasting him high into the air. Amid his tragic scream, his body is hurled away and vanishes from the sky. As the smoke clears and he is gone, the crowd erupts, uncertain who intervened. Even Shang Ding is frozen, while a shadowy figure is faintly seen observing from a distant rooftop. It is Li Shudong, Han Zhan's master, who quietly retreats after watching. The city lord refuses to stop, unleashing blazing red power, vowing to kill Han Zhan today. Han Zhan realizes this is the decisive moment, his eyes gleaming as he feels his master has helped and the time has come. The city lord unleashes 5 giant fists filled with destructive power, roaring his intent to kill Han Zhan. Sensing danger, Han Zhan swiftly dodges, barely escaping as the strike detonates heaven and earth. Seeing such lightning speed, the city lord frowns in fury. Before the enemy can react, Han Zhan charges forward like an arrow. In an instant, he delivers a direct punch to the city lord's face. The full force sends him flying, crashing down to the ground. As the dust settles, everyone sees the city lord's battered body collapsed on the ground. From his forehead, a massive parasite slowly crawls out. Han Zhan immediately acts, shouting as he seizes the strange creature. He crushes it, grinding it to pieces in his hand. The crowd is shaken, murmuring non-stop since it was an insect. Han Zhan raises the corpse, declaring it a level 4 parasite clan member, reaffirming his purpose to protect humanity. The audience is stunned, discussing that without him the consequences would be dire, and the city lord was indeed abnormal. At that moment, Li Shudong appears at the execution ground, solemnly asking the people how they feel after this event. Han Zhan replies he feels reassured letting his master handle matters, but hopes next time he can lead the troops himself. His master nods in praise, noting the insect lord has been slain and he has achieved great merit. However, he regrets Han Zhan's excessive force erased all leads on Po Xiao. Han Zhan curiously asks more. Li Shudong explains it is a hidden underground organization within the defense forces, with little information known. Han Zhan is shocked the enemy could hide within their own ranks. At that moment, Yifan arrives with news they found the corpse of Hong Ying Wei. Hearing this, Han Zhan's expression darkens heavily. He asks for details, and Yifan reports 1,101 casualties, with the victims' bodies and Hong Ying Wei preserved for a sea funeral. Upon the sea, coffins drift, each carrying cold bodies, including Hong Ying Wei. Li Shudong, Han Zhan, and others stand on shore, bowing their heads in mourning. Han Zhan chokes with guilt, blaming himself for failing to protect her. Suddenly, eerie green veins appear on Hong Ying Wei's corpse, her skin changing to a terrifying shade. Her eyes abruptly open as a red-eyed insect crawls from her mouth, exuding deadly aura. Time passes quickly, and October-autumn arrives. During dinner, Li Shudong asks about cultivation progress, and Han Zhan confirms the group has reached third stage. News states Lin Zhen has also advanced to third stage, becoming an SSS-level spirit contract master with the illusory divine weapon Shen Nong Ning. Xia Yu Wei reports she too reached third stage and awakened Fu Shi Qin, an ancient divine weapon. Shang Ti Ding suggests forming a contract with Han Zhan after her awakening, but he explains he only matches with spirit contracts that possess divinity. She agrees and hopes she will gain divinity to cooperate with him. Li Shudong asks about future plans, and Han Zhan expresses his desire to grow stronger, to overcome disasters and open a path for survival. The master decides to contact Nguyen Khan to bring him to Battlefront No. 1 tomorrow for a major war. For harsh training, the master arranges Han Zhan's teammates to train separately and not accompany him. Han Zhan accepts seriously, grateful for his master's arrangement. At Daxia's frontline No. 1, fierce battles are raging. Tanks keep firing, with artillery bombarding the enemy. But the enemy are giant monsters nearly immune to shells and bombs. Amid the sea of fire, a commander urgently orders the evacuation of the wounded. Lao Zhang spots Xiao Ya and is shocked, asking why he returned. Xiao Ya frowns and rebukes, while Lao Zhang retorts angrily, both arguing fiercely over sacrifice and reinforcements. Xiao Ya insists he came for the mission, but the quarrel is cut off by roaring engines from above. A modern military helicopter lands, its rotors stirring thick dust across the battlefield. The hatch opens, and Han Zhan steps out, walking into the tense battleground. He approaches the soldiers, calmly introducing himself. "I am the new recruit, Han Zhan." Xiao Ya, shocked, asks about his companions and spirit contracts. Han Zhan replies calmly that they stayed home. Another soldier harshly says this is a life-or-death place, and coming empty-handed is suicide. A soldier warns Xiao Ya to be cautious, claiming Han Zhan looks less like trained military and more like a noble's son. Someone shows displeasure, mocking a delicate young master for stepping into this chaos. Lao Zhang suggests assigning the newcomer to another team. The other side immediately objects, saying that would break promises. Xiao Ya reluctantly accepts, conceding defeat. He calls Han Zhan to follow and meet the team. Han Zhan is surprised but agrees. On the way, Xiao Ya asks his rank, and Han Zhan states he is a third-stage spirit contract master. Xiao Ya introduces himself as a fourth-stage team captain. He points to two female members, introducing them as Tai Shifang and Ji Xiaoxian. Opposite them, Tai Shifang grumbles about her wet coat, removing it while muttering complaints. But the coat gets stuck, leaving her struggling to take it off. She turns to Han Zhan for help, catching him briefly off guard. He quickly steps forward and helps her remove the coat. Once freed from her coat, Tai Shifang steps closer with a gentle thank you. Han Zhan awkwardly responds. Someone curiously asks why he came alone, or if he has a special hidden spirit contract. In reply, Han Zhan raises his ring, releasing radiant light and introducing himself while offering a gift. Instantly, rare treasures fly out, shocking the team with a priceless 6-stage protective armor. One member happily accepts the gift, saying there is no need for formality. Xiao Ya refuses, saying he only uses mecha, so armor is useless. Inwardly judging Han Zhan as truly from a powerful family, then leaves to take a mission. Another confirms Xiao Ya is indeed a mecha controller, explaining he once lost his spirit contract on the battlefield and was reassigned to mecha. Yet he despises nobles who flaunt family power. A teammate hurriedly apologizes for carelessly mentioning such a sensitive topic. At that moment, Xiao Ya returns, tossing supply bags, telling them to stop chatting and prepare for the mission. Han Zhan immediately asks about its details. Xiao Ya explains it is a campaign to eradicate the Asaki serpent clan, creatures that reproduce extremely fast, outnumbering humans 10,000-fold, causing horrific military casualties. He adds that over a month ago, Battlefront No. 1 fought them intensely until Wei Qing appeared and changed the tide. At that time, Wei Qing unleashed a space-rending strike, cutting Isaki supply lines and shifting the casualty rate, but was soon besieged by 4 Level 8 Serpent Kings, their battle dragging on away from the front. This mission comes from Battlefront Number 2, targeting several identified nests. Fast, mobile units like theirs must urgently exterminate them. After orders, the team departs into the forest, with Xiao Ya in his mecha warning everyone to stay alert. When the vehicle stops, Han Zhan carefully observes and suddenly shouts that they have arrived. Everyone follows his gesture, seeing a giant tree branch bearing a massive snake skin, making a member cry out in shock. Xiao Ya immediately recognizes it as Isaki's shed skin after evolution, proof they just advanced successfully. Someone panics, realizing the Isaki must have hidden eggs inside the discarded skin. As soon as the words fall, waves of eggs begin dropping from the huge skin with dull thuds. Xiao Ya inspects, face pale. The snakeskin stretches 6,730 meters, covered with millions of eggs. This is the target nest. Immediately, one egg starts cracking, emitting a strange sound. Tai Shufang and teammates nervously ask what the noise means. Suddenly, countless eggs crack simultaneously, producing a deafening, piercing resonance. The 2 girls clutched their heads in pain, struggling against the terrifying sound waves. Even Xiao Ya inside the mecha suffered heavy impact. The sound wave was so strong it flung both him and the robot off the cliff wall. Han Zhan rushed into the sky without hesitation to rescue. The 2 girls cried for help in pain and fear, desperately calling Han Zhan's name. Xiao Ya still snapped, shouting for him to focus on the mission instead of saving her. Han Zhan strained, gripping the mecha's hand to hold the vehicle tightly. He poured all his strength into pulling, trying to drag the teetering vehicle. He roared and heaved, hurling the vehicle off the cliff edge onto safe ground. The 2 girls ran to the cliff edge, frantically shouting Han Zhan's name. Xiao Ya stood stunned, whispering disbelief at such terrifying strength. They feared Han Zhan had perished, but suddenly his hand clutched the cliff edge, weakly calling for help. Seeing him alive, the 2 girls joyfully rushed to pull him up. Crying with emotion, they admitted their deep fear of losing him. Xiao Ya felt relieved but angry, scolding Han Zhan for risking himself instead of focusing on the snake nest. He only smiled and nodded. At that moment, a strange noise rang out, putting the team on alert. A swarm of red-eyed snake hatchlings appeared. Han Zhan warned of danger, while Xiao Ya shouted for readiness. The 2 girls panicked at the overwhelming number of snakes, fearing death. The snakes hissed and lunged together with ferocious mouths. Seeing the peril, Xiao Ya chose to cover the rear, ordering the team to retreat. One person cried out in despair that the enemies were too many to escape. At that moment, Han Zhan raised his hand, revealing a mysterious ring. Golden light radiated from the ring, forming a huge circle in the sky. The entire area, both allies and snakes, was enveloped in the barrier. The snakes suddenly froze, halting their attacks. Witnessing the strange scene, Xiao Ya wondered about the cause. The snake hatchlings abruptly lowered their heads, lying flat as if submitting. Xiao Ya was bewildered, not understanding why the snakes seemed to bow. Han Zhan quickly urged the captain to burn them immediately. Xiao Ya snapped back to focus, instantly agreed, and opened fire. The snakes could not resist, shrieking in agony. Flames raged fiercely, sweeping the area and turning it into a blazing sea. After everything was burned, Tai Shufang questioned Han Zhan's method. He calmly replied it was just a special equipment, earning admiration from Ji Xiaoqian. Xiao Ya emerged from the mecha, sighing in relief that the mission was complete. On the battlefield, the entire snake nest was reduced to ashes. Xiao Ya looked at Han Zhan, doubting his true identity since he was unlike pampered nobles. Han Zhan smiled, claiming he was just a Tier 3 spirit contract master, leaving Xiao Ya skeptical. At that moment, the control system sounded an urgent alarm. Xiao Ya checked the data. His face grew serious, and Han Zhan immediately asked the reason. He explained. Most teams had failed their missions. Fewer than 10 remained. Fortunately, they had Han Zhan's help. All reinforcement routes of the snakes had been marked, and hatchlings must pass through them to enter the battlefield. Xiao Ya stated bluntly, if they used his special ability to make the snakes submit, they could intercept and annihilate them before they joined the army. Han Zhan replied in a deep voice that he was unsure they could wipe them out, but if they did not retreat now, the team would be destroyed instead. At the same time, deep within Isaki territory, a colossal Tier 5 black serpent coiled around a giant tree, its blazing red eyes radiating terrifying, killing intent.